foreseeable future.
Angela, beautifully segued there by Charles to that speech last night, because I was talking a little earlier on the programme, mindful that you were going to be coming in. When King Charles acknowledged on television that he knew in future there were certain things in the charitable world, certain issues which he could no longer push because either time was against it or he was now king and knew that there were new rules of engagement, he anointed the new Prince of Wales and the new Princess of Wales as it were, the keepers of those issues, that they would become the heart of the national conversation. That's quite significant, isn't it?
I think it's very significant, actually, and it shows that he's not going to be a king who's going to lead regardless of anybody there. He wants to bring in the family, because I think partly he knows his age is over 70, and he wants to make the public feel reassured that he is very happy to use younger people than himself in any sort of necessary situation, or even, just to get their feelings. And we've seen that with Prince William, when he's talked about Harry and he's talked about the Queen, and he's started that already, and I think that's tremendously good. And I think it's linked very strongly to him and the Queen walking around Buckingham Palace. It was totally unexpected, but what it felt like to me was that he wanted to show that he was part of the people and he wanted people to be part of him.
He didn't have to extend the hand of love and almost forgiveness by implication to Harry and Meghan.
No, I thought
it didn't have to be in the speech, it was at the heart of the speech.
I thought it was fascinating, actually. He called them Harry and Meghan. He proved, one, that he was a father, and fathers love their children sometimes regardless. They might not like what they do, but they love them as individuals. But he didn't give them any sort of honour. He didn't say the Duke and Duchess or anything like that. So he welcomed how they were getting on overseas.
Yeah.
So he sort of covered it brilliantly without any commitment there.
Rafe in a moment, but Charles on precisely that point as well, as they make their new life abroad.
Yes.
Point final, or comma?
We'll have to. It's a comma, I'm afraid, because who knows what's going to happen in the future with Harry and Meghan. And just going back a second to the fact that they created William and Catherine, Prince and Princess of Wales. How nice, isn't it, that for the very first time in 25 years we're actually going to have the title Princess of Wales being used once again. I mean, let's not forget that technically Camilla has been Princess of Wales, but there was a reason why she never used that title. But I think Catherine is going to be an absolutely brilliant Princess of Wales, and it'll be so nice. And you can imagine what the papers and television are going to do. They're going to be side by side with things that Diana did, which are doing at the moment, and now Catherine. So it's really fantastic. And I'm really pleased that the King made that announcement last night without having to wait for a year or 2 years or whatever. And it is really good. And he had to mention Harry. He had to mention Meghan, because Harry is his son, and I think it's an olive branch. Whether or not Harry picks up that olive branch remains to be seen.
I'm sorry if I looked as if I was going to interrupt. I didn't mean to. But that was precisely the point I want to bring Rafe back in. As all of you are brilliant commentators on these matters, but historically, one is minded of the fact that when Edward VIII did what he did, and the barriers came down, and the late Queen Mother, not late Queen Elizabeth II, but late Queen Mother, never, ever forgave him for doing what he did, whether it was off to Bermuda for a while or Paris, where eventually he ended his days. For someone who is not only the new king, but is also head of that family now, a great deal of thought would have gone into it. It mattered, says Angela. He had little or no choice, suggests Charles. Your view?
I think he had little or no choice on the matter. To have omitted reference to Harry and Meghan, I think, would have struck an entirely wrong note on an occasion when the monarch is supposed to reassure the monarchy and the world that the transition will be smooth and that this is a time for compassion and for reconciliation. And unlike Edward VIII, the Prince of Wales, now the King, is the father of Harry, and he's a father who desperately wants to reconcile with his son, and that's a distinguishing factor. Whereas the
Queen Mother was
blaming, yes, and blaming very much Edward VIII and Mrs. Simpson for putting this burden onto the shoulders of her husband, who she thought perhaps wasn't up to the